What's poppin', everybody? Welcome to another episode of my Inconsummate playthrough. This time we're going to be dealing with a third map, which I remember being significantly easier, actually, than the second mission. But time will tell, and the video length of this video may also tell just what that's all about. I did see some comments in the previous video and on Discord. People were inquiring about various points of the development of this particular project, and you know, like I said in the previous video, if I can go into that level of detail, then I don't see why not. That being said, given that we're trying to focus each individual video on each individual map, I probably won't dive into the script or AI of a previous mission in this particular video. That doesn't mean that I won't jump back and, you know, after the fact, record some sort of like developer extra where there is no gameplay footage, just me looking at various developer materials and breaking them down for people who are really interested in that sort of thing. That way we can keep things somewhat focused, even though things being focused is kind of a meme when it comes to me. So essentially, if you saw the first part of the first video that had to be split into two parts, it'll be more like that, is what I'm thinking. And I don't know how many of those there will be, but that would be a situation where I could really break down, you know, a couple of different things about a couple of different maps or a couple of different projects or whatever. And so if you have any suggestions or requests or anything like that for a series like that, feel free to leave them in the comments or at me on Discord or whatever. Otherwise, we will move right on to Sins of the Follower. Let me break this map down for you before we jump into the briefing itself. This was a mission, this is actually the last of the maps that was worked on and quote-unquote completed up until, you know, I started releasing the project in the first place. So I essentially finished this map to the point that it was, to the degree that it was finished, before releasing the project. So the first mission that I worked on after that was obviously the fourth map. I think maybe I had already started on a layout or something of that map by the time that Sins of the Follower was more or less fully developed, but this essentially the first three missions were worked on in tandem, and the rest of them were piecemeal after the fact. And I think it has an interesting concept that unfortunately tried to define or control the kind of gameplay that you would see. And I really wanted to play up the idea of the twin perspectives of the agents of Tuzor. I really wanted to play up Goska and Stralium in a way working together, but working in different manners. And because I didn't end up having an AI ally in this mission, and the player controls both of them, I think that kind of fell apart. And I also think it was a little goofy of me to try and mandate Nidus Canal usage when, realistically speaking, the make of the map more or less encourages that kind of gameplay pattern anyway, but it also allows you to, you can just do overlord transports, or you can do flyers. And again, due to tech restrictions, you can't do too many flyers. Like, I think you're still locked behind mutas in this mission. I don't remember if you have guardians. I think you might have ultralisks now, but maybe that's not until the next mission. I don't know. I don't 100% remember. So I just know that we had Lair and Muta and Scourge and presumably Queen in the previous map. I didn't even really check. This mission, I'll actually take a look, because it's a little bit less timing dependent in the early stages of the game, so I actually have a little bit more breathing room to do that. At least this is all from memory, but presumably there won't be as much of a big deal trying to figure all that shit out. So what I'm getting at here is, I had this idea where you would have some sort of gameplay representation of the different ways that one AI personality, or one, I kind of gave away the fucking goat there, but one part of the one cast of the character, or one character of the cast of characters, you know, they have this one method of going about things. You know, Goska goes about things in a different way than Stralium does. And despite the fact that I didn't include AI, you know, ultimately I still had that idea, and I wasn't really sure how to, you know, specify it. So I just decided that I would have a very lengthy opening cutscene and try to like inform the player, or it's not really poisoning the well, but it's like begging the question. Like I tried to lead people to the conclusion that I wanted them to have, instead of just like encouraging that kind of thinking, but not necessarily prescribing it to people, not necessarily enforcing it, if that makes any sense. Like, I didn't want to jump in and run the risk of people potentially taking away the wrong thing, even though that is a necessary risk, I think, you know, you kind of have to trust the intelligence of of your audience if you want to, you know, give them a good story. You want them to have to pay attention to the subtle things, the little things. You want them to have to come to their own conclusions. And honestly, that's even better for like it's an unrelated point, but people who are fans of the work can discuss it amongst themselves and say like, oh, I had this idea and you had a completely different one. And like that's part of the brilliance of discussing works of art or works of creative expression or whatever you want to term custom campaigns as. No, I don't really think of it in the same way that I think of like a movie or something, right? Because it's similar to fan fiction. It's much less original, but I still could present something that's a lot more, you know, has a lot more depth to it and facilitates that kind of interaction in a way that I didn't in this case. And I think I'll go into a little bit more detail once we get into it. But those are some thoughts that I have preceding the playthrough of Sins of the Follower and the listening to the briefing and all that shit. So let's take a listen to the briefing, I suppose. Sins of the Follower, Guska's talents are put to use as the swarm makes ready to hamstring the Terran meddlers. 3.
The Magnate has put your adversary to rest, Cerebrate.
So the mighty Phoenix has fallen. This is excellent news. Now the rest of the Protoss shall share his fate.
You have a new plan.
Yes. The Balrog brood is nearly rejuvenated, and I am making ready to join them on the surface. Along with another Cerebrate, we will work to locate the Firstborn's leadership and destroy them.
Then you are making progress. Where are you starting your search?
In a large temple complex the Protoss call Harundal. There lies an archive that may hold the location of the Conclave's Council Hall. I will start there. Already my brood moves to rid the temple of its defenders.
Keep me apprised of your discoveries. In the meantime, I must plan my next move. The Terrans continue to pose a significant threat, and it is high time that we dealt with them.
Indeed. Those primitive warriors had no business here in the first place. Let none survive!
Master! Magnate, infested. I have a new task for you. We are going to take this war to the Terrans' doorstep and sever their supply lines.
The last I heard, the majority of their starports are in a province called Aradas. I can be there within the hour.
Excellent. The Magnate will accompany you on this mission. You will need to work closely together if you are to succeed.
As Master will.
These Terrans aren't stupid, Tuzor. If Strawlium is operating in the area, it won't take long before my cover is blown.
A necessary sacrifice. The Terrans must be removed from this world. Do whatever it takes to destroy them.
Affirmative. I'll get it done.
Well, well, well. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it, huh? I just realized I didn't fade out the briefing music the same way that I did for the other missions in this particular. Well, I guess I sort of did. I must have timed it to the end of briefing instead of timing it to the end of dialogue. That's I'm not sure actually, now that I think about it, if that's been the case for all the others. But yeah, I got a whole list of thoughts here that I wrote while I was listening to this and watching it along with you. The first one, obviously, being, why did I use a nuke silo sound, and why did I butcher it so badly? There are no nukes in this map from what I remember. Maybe there was something where I was planning on using nukes in the development process, but I don't think so. Maybe what happened, I can say maybe I had the idea to use nukes in a redo of this map, like in the new version or in an update to this version. I may have planned on having nukes, but I certainly don't recall it. And one of the main reasons is it's supposed to be odd that Goska is a ghost in the ranks of the Raiders. Like, that's supposed to be kind of sticking out like a sore thumb, because for whatever reason, I decided Goska, or Rainer's Raiders were not going to be able to have ghosts for whatever fucking reason. I don't remember why. I think it was the same reason why I didn't want them having too many science vessels and 0 battle cruisers, and having such, like, it's almost like the AI themselves are playing by a very limited tech tree in that way. And I definitely think that it's weird then to use a nuke silo sound. And again, I think I also could have edited it, or maybe just had it loop instead of be dragged out to the degree that it was, where it took longer to play. I don't really know what I was thinking about. But the other thing that I was thinking about from the title cards was actually the power of names that is on display in Inconsummate. This is something that I still think I did a pretty good job of, even all these years later. There's a few things in this campaign, generally speaking, that I think stand the test of time. And one of those is its usage of names. I think every single map so far has felt like the name alone got you intrigued with how it pertained to the plot. I mean, whether or not it succeeded on an execution basis is probably a more person-to-person thing, and I can only see flaws looking at it now. But the names, I still think, are quite interesting and quite compelling. Like Act of God being the first mission. Like, if you're invoking God, if you're invoking a deity, if you're invoking the power of a god, even if it's just like a god and not the Abrahamic God or something, I still think that's like something about that has a level of power, and the fact that it's 3 very short words as well. Like, there's something about saying it out loud, Act of God. Like, it has power to it that you don't normally associate with RTS missions, that I don't personally associate with RTS missions when I play custom content. You know, even when I play official content, I think a lot of the maps are boring as fuck, like First Strike or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's so generic. Whereas I do think that something about Inconsummate, even the name of the project itself, there is some power to it. Like, even the trailer with that shitty Overmind line that we watched in the very first video of the series, when he does say that, you know, while my will remains Inconsummate, like, part of me still gets a little bit of chills on the, you know, hair on the back of my neck standing up, or whatever you want to call that. Like, part of me does feel like that's epic. Like, that's an epic moment, even in the trailer alone. So I still feel like there was some element of composition that sold the whole process of that particular thing. And I think part of it is due to the naming power. Like, you know, if I try to pick things when I name stuff, even if it's just like interview or talk shows in the CSGO space, or like, you know, video series on this channel. Like, I try to find something that has significance in a name and also can be like easily searched for, which is not really like a direct thing for this particular project, but it's like, you know, there are a bunch of different projects that have something like, you know, Saga of the, or Legacy of, or Chronicles of, or, you know, like, there's a bunch of buzzwords essentially that we're used to being included in titles, or like blank of the blank, like Fury of the Xel'Naga, Wrath of the Tal'Darim, whatever the fuck it might be. So in the custom content space, I try to find ways to change that. You know what I mean? Like, I guess in a way I actually have a working title for a project that's like many sequels down the road from Inconsummate itself, called Herald of the Flame. But even that might not, you know, survive. And it's because I think I can probably find something that's a little bit better in terms of how that works out. Like, a little bit more interesting in terms of what it implies. But even then, like, at least Herald of the Flame isn't necessarily like a generic title in the same way. It's a generic construction, but the words themselves might imply something a little bit different. Like, well, what does it mean by flame? And who is the herald? Like, at least there's some questions posed. Whereas like Inconsummate is like that, but also being unique and doesn't follow some existing structures. Like Inconsummate, if you know what the word consummate means, to consummate something is to finish something. It's usually used in the context of consummating a marriage, which means having sex after you get married. And in a situation where you're saying something is inconsummate, it means it's not completed. It means there was something that began. There was some process that began that is not yet completed. And just asking the question, what is inconsummate? Like within not the project, but what has not yet been consummated? What is the thing that the title refers to? That is an interesting thing right there, and it's built into the main thrust of the story where the Overmind's plan is not finished yet, basically. So to that degree, it's not even like the title is just something interesting, but ultimately has no significance. That's the other part of the power of names, for me, is that Act of God and Praetor's Fall is obviously a little bit more on the nose. And now this map, Sins of the Follower. I feel like there's a lot about all of these mission names or the project name itself that has some significance when you actually think about like what is going on in the story, right? And what is going on in the plot that we see in this mission. And when it comes to something like, Sins of the Follower, we're not really 100% sure what that means when we come into it, but it becomes quite clear, I think, who the follower is, especially, it should be kind of obvious just in this briefing, and I think I played it up a little bit too much, and I'll get to that a little bit later in this briefing rant. But when you consider the idea that there's all of these different things that you can associate with the title Sins of the Follower, like you wonder what the sins are and who the follower is. Like, again, there's some questions that are being asked based on that, even though it does follow that blank of the blank title, right? It still has some element of it. Like, those are two words you don't normally see in a title anyway. Even more different and more like, or less commonly seen than something like Herald of the Flame in that sense, where Sins of the Follower is like, okay, well, that's almost different enough that I can kind of look past the fact that it's following this weird, cookie cutter style of name. So it's just something that I don't see played up very often. You know what I mean? Like Act of God. I wonder what the act of God actually was here. Like, because what that means is, like, if for people who maybe don't know what the term actually means, is that it's people usually refer to things as acts of God when it's like something that nobody could expect, but nobody could also. There's also nothing that anybody could do about it, like a natural disaster or a hurricane, something like that. Like nobody could have done anything about that. But at the same time, by the same metric, you've got like some element of invoking the deity, invoking a deity, invoking something that's unknowable, all powerful, and something that you could not possibly have anything to do with. Like, there's a lot, like, it's trucking in big things there. You know what I mean? Like, it's trading in big things. And you got to wonder what exactly is in reference. Now, I don't think it lived up to the title in that sense. Like I said, the execution is usually pretty bad, but the attempt was made. And I think that the title itself is one way to think about that. All right, let's get into the more nitty-gritty of the briefing itself. Yes, this is a long briefing review. I hope you appreciate these. So I did want to talk about the fact that the plot line so far feels pretty disconnected from map to map, which is a criticism that I usually have of a lot of custom campaigns. So it's kind of disappointing to see this in my own work now. It's something that I hadn't really fully thought about. But I think generally speaking, there is some connection. It just, like the first line is a reference to what just happened previously. But something about it feels disconnected for me. Like, especially since, like, if you look back to map 1, Goska being the main guy, and then suddenly you play Astralium, that feels like, it's a subversion, but it also feels disconnected. I feel like I could have maybe, synchronized them and made it some sort of symphony, as opposed to these two discordant pieces that don't really feel like they have a lot of harmony together. They don't really feel like they work together very well. But then, you come away from, killing the Protoss and Terrans in the area. Like, there's a sense of aimlessness to the first mission, where it initially, after the very long briefing is over, you're looking for Goska, but then you find Goska super quickly in what might as well be a 5-second long gameplay experience, and then there's another long cutscene, and then you're going to the Raider base, but you only find that objective out. It's not like they were shot down and then they were like, all right, the nearest Raider base is over here, so let's go there. And once we regroup over there, we can figure out where Goska is. And then, like, along the way, they found Goska, right? Whereas at least your goal is the same thing every single time. instead of it being this weird, like, nebulous thing, right? So that then when Goska comes into the picture, that's when you get your goal about, like, here's the raider base. But the characters already knew that. Like, the surviving raiders from the crash already knew that that was the case. And it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really hold water in the same way, right? It doesn't pass muster why you weren't just informed of that to begin with, and why they didn't, like, organize amongst themselves to go there anyway. Now, that being said, after that, your units get killed, and it's revealed that you have to be Zerg here. And, okay, then your goal is to kill all the Terrans and Protoss, and again, subversion. But after, like, you're not really sure why you have to do that. Whereas, like, the Terrans having to find Goska to some extent is like, that was their initial goal. And then having to go, back to the raider base and regroup is like, because otherwise they die. So it's very clear why you have to do that. Whereas it's not really clear why you don't just leave the way you came when you're Strawlium. Like, why do you need to secure the area exactly? Like, there's not really much of an impetus to do that. There's nothing about the area that screams out to be controlled. Like, it's not like there's a lot of resources here, obviously. It's not like there's, it's a enemy stronghold of a high value or something like that. And it's also, like, there's an obvious question to ask is, like, what the fuck was Strawlium doing there? How was he avoiding detection insofar as, like Goska didn't really know for sure if he was there, even though you sensed him faintly, whatever the fuck that means. And he hasn't been wiped out by all the pre-placed brigades, but he's still got, like, a tiny base. And he wasn't even, like, mining resources, I guess, because the drones were borrowed. Like, I don't know. There's so many questions that you start asking when you just look at that logically, right? And then you go from there. It's like the goal of killing Phoenix. I guess you kill a Phoenix because he's Phoenix. But, like, there's not really a reason to. You're doing it to not really to avenge Gorn, but after Gorn has been killed by Phoenix. So, like, they know, okay, well, Gorn, they saw that Gorn regenerated, so we need to kill him for something. Like, is there a reason? Is there a connection there? Is it just like, oh, this is how we know Phoenix exists and we have to go kill him? It felt like a shallow attempt to synchronize the story of Inconsummate and anchor it in the main story of the product, right? Of the original StarCraft campaign, which to me is not really that interesting now. Now, once we get to this mission, where we're dealing with the Terran threat, it feels like maybe this should have come immediately following the previous mission, or the first mission rather, because there doesn't really seem to be a connection between killing Phoenix first and then killing off the Raiders and making it so that their supply lines are cut or whatever, and so that they're grounded. It also doesn't really make any sense that why they would need, like, okay, you kill some starports in some like one area, okay, that means that their supply lines are cut forever? I mean, I understand they're not a particularly large faction in terms of the number of units that they're able to deploy, but still, like, what the fuck is going on here? Exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of really confusing things about that. And that's just sort of what I'm thinking of coming into this area. So at least we know that our objective is to destroy Terran supply lines, and in theory it's because the Terrans are going to be threatening, but we don't really know why the Terrans are threatening. And we haven't really been shown that they're threatening either. We've just been told that they are. And then immediately following Tuzor telling us that, Gorn tells us that they're stupid, primitive idiots that should just be killed. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like one of the characters is saying, hey, these guys are threats. We've got to deal with them. And then Gorn's like, oh yeah, they don't stand a chance against you. Go get them, Tiger. It's like, if they don't stand a chance, then why are we even bothering with them? Like, you know what I mean? So it just feels very schizophrenic in the way that it's characterizing the Terrans as well. And we're not really showing anything anyway, because in both of those cases, it's just telling us that. The one time we did see Terrans in the first mission, they're kind of stupid. So, I guess that's to be expected in some ways. But the Protoss have, like, less of a requirement to be shown that they're powerful, because we already know that the Ire Protoss have a lot of units, because we played the shitty Brood War or StarCraft 1 campaign where they had 1 million pre-placed Reavers and stuff. So, like, we already know what their power level is at, roughly speaking, if we're coming from the source material. So this fanfiction approach that I've taken, where now I'm almost like asking players to just buy that the Terrans are also threatening, even though we don't know what the power level is of the Raiders. Like, we need to see that in action, and we didn't really see anything super convincing about the first mission, right? So, and then obviously they were nowhere to be found in the second map. So it really beggars belief in that respect. Trying to think about anything else that I want to mention here. Cerebrit. Oh, yes. So when Gorn says that another Cerebrit is going to accompany him, that was like a really fucking unsubtle but also shitty way of trying to bring in Arak, who I don't think actually had a confirmed name, so I didn't want to name drop him, making him think he was a real character, but I didn't know how to say it otherwise. Because Arak is essentially the other Cerebrit alongside Gorn in Shadowhunters that Zeratul kills. The penultimate Protoss mission in the vanilla campaign, Zeratul kills 2 Cerebrits. One of them is Gorn, the other one is Arak. And their names are in the manual as opposed to being in the game. So because I didn't want people to think that Arak is like a new character or a character that you have to give a shit about in terms of like, I didn't want players to think that was a name that they had to remember. I decided to remove any name of him, but just say that there's another Cerebret. And like that just confuses things further. You know, obviously Harundal is my own name. There was no real name for the area that Zeratul kills them in, or the area that those Cerebrets go to. But it's just another thing, like, why? You know what I mean? Like, what is very, very confusing in that respect. So it definitely is like, this is where we could get into the conversation about like, there's a ceiling of how good this campaign could be in terms of its story and presentation aspects based on like the ceiling is imposed by creative limits, because you can really only be as good as the shitty setting you're working within will let you. And StarCraft setting is pretty shitty in that respect, unless you're willing to reinvent a bunch of stuff. And for whatever reason, I wasn't at this time. I wanted to make things relatively simple and only have a few leaps of logic from the original lore, like raiders being on IR helping, for example, or like medics and lurkers and shit like that being available in the game, and just they weren't used for some reason in the vanilla campaign. So like stuff like that, you know, aside from those two things, I don't think that there are too many leaps of logic comparatively. Maybe if you actually examined like the time scale of what's happening, it would kind of get fucky, because in the 4th mission of this campaign, it takes place like immediately following the 9th mission of the Protoss campaign, the vanilla Protoss campaign. But we just had a mission that took place during like the cutscene after the 3rd Protoss mission. So like there's a huge time gap in that particular respect. So it definitely feels like maybe there's like a hole there in essence. But I don't really know how else to describe that one. I think that's probably just like an oversight on my part. And then, yeah, why does Strawlium and Goska have to work closely together in this particular case? It's similar to the Terran argument or the complaint of Terrans being threatening, apparently. It's more storytelling as opposed to story showing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just low quality execution on that. I also don't know why I surround every single fucking transmission in quote marks. That's thankfully a habit I've stepped away from. It's pretty ugly as far as I'm concerned. Distracting more than anything. It's obviously a very minor note. And then, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that Goska's subplot of having his cover blown, like, it feels forced in here because it's not really set up otherwise. There's very, very subtle hints that maybe he's not super happy with the fact that Goska or Strawlium killed the Terrans in the way that his voice acting is delivered. But even then, since we don't know that much about Goska in the first map, it doesn't really sound like he's upset about that. It sounds more like he's just like, oh, I guess this is how things are now. You know, like he's more accepting. It's based on the sounds anyway. So I don't feel like that was, a great job was done there in this point, especially since we completely had radio silence from Goska in the previous mission. So we have no idea what he's doing during the entirety of the second map. So we don't really know how like willing he is to fight Terrans in the same way. And we only really get glimpses of the steps that he tries to take to save Terran lives in this mission and in this mission's opening cutscene specifically. And obviously he like complains about the potential for him to lose out on the trust of the Terrans in this briefing. But I also, just in general, I feel like I did a really shitty job with trying to explain this sort of thing. So anyway, hopefully I explained my thoughts pretty well there. And now that we're done with the 30-minute rant about the project, we could get into the actual map. So let's go. Disable the Terran supply lines. Goska and Strawlium must survive. +++.
You heard the reports. Every starport to the south has been blown to bits. It's not like the Zerg.
Yeah. If they wanted them gone, they'd have done it themselves.
It can't be the Zerg. The reports have come through and not a single sighting. And besides, we already ran them out of this province. Why would they come back again?
This reeks of sabotage.
Change of plans, everyone. All Raider personnel are to evacuate this site immediately.
What? We've received no such orders.
I'm afraid I'm pulling rank on this one, soldier. The destruction of the southern starports has command thinking that whatever's causing it has tapped into our comms.
So Raynor's resorting to Pony Express. Huh. And he wonders why we call him Cowboy.
You can bitch at him later. I've got to get this one off the ground before it winds up under it. Now get moving.
You heard the man. Everyone on me. We're moving to the next checkpoint.
Oh man, this is so much sympathetic embarrassment, man. I'm sorry you have to watch this, guys. I'm sorry I have to watch this.
Since when did Raynar get a ghost?
I don't know. Maybe he knew him from his Confederate days.
Nice rates, by the way.
What the fuck?
The starport!
The ghost! It's him! He's the bomber!
What the hell was that sound?
That ghost is working with the Zerg! Defend yourselves!
You should have followed orders.
I love that he sometimes attacks the bunker. That's pretty good. Role-playing cutscene, TBH. Oh man, I'm gonna have to pause the game after this, aren't I?
My cover has been blown. Strolium, what's your
I
status?
agree.
Kill these fucking Zerg!
Terrans threaten our swarms. You destroy them, or our cluster dies.
I agree.
I have a few troops remaining from the last battle, but I'll need reinforcements. The Nidus Canal will make it easier for you to send them to me. There. Some creep will facilitate this. We will continue the assault at your command. Yes! We begin now!
Oh man. I can't handle it. It's so cringe. Wait, why did I get this interview to him?
Command!
At least I made an attempt to like have the drones move together. Okay, all right. I have to pause the game. I'm sorry, guys. I know you just heard me rant for 3 hours, but holy shit! All right, so the fucking star. I wish there was a rewind button for in-game cutscenes. The starports, right? They're the ones that they're clearly the target. And then Goska tells them all to leave, and they buy his fucking story, even though it's the most insane thing possible. And they could just radio to command immediately on the spot. Like, it's so fucking embarrassing that that was the premise. So they do that, right? They buy his story, even though it's just super embarrassing and beggars belief. And oh man, oh man, oh man. Okay, so that happens, and then before they even walk off the fucking plateau, he starts blowing shit up with spawning wraiths and science vessels on them, which is embarrassing. And that happens. Okay, that happens. Bear with me now. That happens. And then the Goliath walks up and stares at the wreckage and says, "What was that sound?" And then, after all that, Goska's like, my cover's been blown. Like, you fucking blew it yourself. You might as well have blown yourself up with those bombs. In fact, I don't know how they didn't hurt you, considering the Wraith explosions were right in front of you. That's crazy. That's kooky. That's nuts. Nobody would have guessed. So yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. Ultimately, very embarrassing. Ultimately, very, very, very fucking embarrassing. But then, capstone it all with "Kill these fucking Zerg." One of my best lines, probably. That's like roaches. That's my roaches, if you know what that is. That's "Kill these fucking Zerg." Like, I guess he sort of sounds scared or unnerved, but I don't know, man. Something about the just deadpan, like, center view over to the scenario. These units haven't really fully started fighting yet. It's like it's very obvious they were just like placed there instead of you being like shown in the middle of action. It's like if you've ever had to edit a video for your high school project or a college project or something, they always tell you, like, if you make a cut to a point where there's like somebody's in the middle of stepping somewhere. It looks more natural that way instead of making a cut to like, I cut to the next shot of people walking up a sidewalk and it's and they just started walking. You know what I mean? Like it's less natural if they just started. Like it's like that. It's like the fucking common sense thing, but for whatever reason, the choreography threw out the window over here, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty embarrassing. I don't know what to say. I'm not speechless clearly because I'm still talking, but that was bad, man. That was something else, and now I've got to deal with having all of these fucking hero units. Now Goska's at least really fucking strong. Goska is an infested ghost. He slowly regenerates life and benefits from Zerg upgrades. And his attacks have a chance to stun. Who'da thunk it? Oh yeah, since I don't really need gas, I can just go take this base now. I promise I'll try to play better this time, guys. I can't say I can't use the excuse of it being late anymore. But I do not want to over-drone. Also, if I could have just dropped, like, structures, why didn't I just drop a Nidus Canal exactly? Especially since there's resources over here.
Immediate.
Yeah. Would have made some sense. Oh man, if I start playing Hydra again before I
Waiting.
Oh yeah, I think I changed the tech requirement. Yeah, now just cannot requires layer. Oh yeah, then I said I was going to look at the larva to see what units we could build. It looks like maybe we unlocked queens in this mission. I vaguely recall that being a different time than
Alright,
before.
boys. That damn ghost is out there somewhere. And
That
it's our
damn
job
ghost.
to put him down.
Shit. The raiders aren't just going to sit idle while we formulate a plan, Magnate. We need to destroy their staging grounds to put a stop to their assaults in this region. Yes, Goska! Our swarms march!
But yeah, if I ever play Hydra and then I have to come back to this, I'm going to be very depressed. IMO. I remember I deliberately didn't pre-place an evolution chamber despite placing a spawning pool on a Hydra den, because when you build an evolution chamber, there's a tooltip that appears, and I wanted people to see that tooltip. You know what I mean? So, just saying, bro. Tooltip. Also, once again, we have everything besides the antenna for upgrades. Man, I hate upgrades. But here's the tooltip. That is the hero upgrade that is actually worth getting, by the way. Alright, I think we'll stop droning it around this point. Grab another overlord, though. I'll just use I'll just get drones as many times as I'm, like, getting additional structures or whatever. Like another evolution chamber, and like maybe one more drone at this base, but I don't even think we need it, honestly. That's an underrated aspect of Starcraft, as far as like figuring out.
Moving.
Oh yeah, his voice lines changed. There's actually 3 Goska units, by the way. 3. I don't know if you knew that. Because of the different upgrades that are supposed to affect him. So, like, here he's got Zerg Carapace and Zerg missile attacks improve his rifle, even though there's not really a reason for that to happen, but whatever. And then, oh, hello. I'm trying to kill the lurkers. I mean, that's what I need. Fucking lurkers. So I was trying to kill some specific units. Marines, because they were targeting my... Yes, more medics. That's what you need to give me. Just trying to get rid of the units that were attacking my... sunken colony, but it did not work. Actually, this would be better if it was moved up a little bit. But why? I'm really confused as to why that dropship just showed up out of nowhere. Anyway.
Master.
Don't talk to me, Dad. Hey, you can't say master. That's ableist slur or something. Not inclusive enough. Man, that was... What an embarrassment of a... fucking development that was. Basically, there was some development where... it became clear that it was just too ableist, or too non-inclusive. Oh yeah, I should get a layer. Too, fuck, I can't even remember what I was talking about. Basically, there's something about, GitHub, that's what it was. Or Git in general. It's not allowed. Alright, oh, I don't have a layer yet. I guess I'll grab a spore colony over here. I don't remember if it's even required or if it's a prank. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and keep up the Hydralisk Gestation. There's a base that we could take over here, but I mostly want to get rid of the Terrans that are mining over here. One thing that you'll find in this campaign is that you are actually punished for being proactive a lot, and unfortunately that is something that don't die, please. Dude, holy shit, how many tanks are there? Look at all the pre-placed brigades, TBH. Alright.
Raiders are fond of their vulture bikes.
Ah!
Where they lurk, spider mines aren't far behind. We must be wary.
I forgot that I accidentally moved this guy.
Your will moving.
Nice. Go ahead and tier 2 upgrade ourselves here. At least for range. We'll get Carapace next. We should be able to do that off of this base. I don't think there'll be any issues there. Now that Astralium has sufficiently been bullied, even still, I think maybe with just one swarm we should be able to take the next base. We don't really have to use Overlords at any point, but it's useful for not getting our domes drilled by siege tanks. So. Next, yeah, I think next bit of fucking
We go.
next round of Hydras here when these pop. Should be good to go. I would be interested in trying out some sacrificial Zergling strats, but I am very heavily limited in what I can actually do here, resource-wise, right? So,
Command.
I think just drop the swarm over there and then get this guy out of here. It absorbed a few shots. Come on, dude. I know this is the dumb pathfinding area, but still. We can pull back here. We should be able to safely attack the... barracks, I think. Pull back a little bit. There's so many Marines, though. Alright, we killed the barracks. I'm calling that a W. I could have fallen back to the swarm, but it was about to expire, I think. I always underestimate how long those last. At least of the Hydra stuff. It's hard to tell, like, how much of this shit is actually, like, them defending? Is this already depleted? Holy embarrassment. Yeah. We'll get that, and then I guess we are gonna need some Zerglings after all, even though I don't even have fucking... speed. But I think we can break this base anyway. And the base that I talked about, it's like above mine, is actually, oh, okay. it's actually got a geyser, so... Hello?
Command!
There you go. There's your command, homie. This is clearly a very epic attack for us. I'm glad that we were able to bust that open, but unfortunately that might have resulted in tanks. I think I'll transition into air after this, actually. I should have enough with 2 geysers. Okay, that actually should be their last tank. Especially since they just made a vulture there. Let's go for initial immediate reinforcements. There's like 1 or 2 more barracks somewhere for this player. And then there's another player that is a different player but the same color, I think. Or maybe they are actually a different color, I don't remember. Should be in the clear now if we just attack this. And I guess I'll send Strontium down over there too, because I definitely need some... I just want to make sure that there's as many resources left as possible, which means we gotta kill these SCVs, especially the gas harvesters, the gas stealers. Yeah. Tag him. Tag him and tag him. How much we got in here? Oh yeah, 3K, that's good. Go ahead and don't mind if I do. Still can't get Adrenal, so still not really a good idea to overinvest in the Zerglings per se.
Claim this base. The Terrans have already strip-mined this region, so you won't have long before you need to move on to another base. I'll try and keep their fleets off your back. Yes.
When you're actually trying to play an RTS, like Starcraft, it's really difficult to actually handle multiple bases at the same time, or multiple angles of a map or whatever, right? Like if I'm supposed to be doing this sort of thing, it's not simple, for sure. Particularly when you're limited with the camera hotkeys that you have, and particularly when you're a bad player like me. That being said, now that we've more or less stabilized on this side, we should be able to aggress out with Gaska. So I'll go ahead and slap the Nidus down here. And I'm not sure what the next course of action should be gas-wise. I think I'll just ultimately save with... save my gas for Hydras until I get these bases set up. We are going to need to drone as well with some of our remaining mineral workers, or whatever, our next bit of larva, generally speaking. Go ahead and end that, because that's the hotkey. And yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, I don't even get my main base as the default camera hotkey, embarrassingly enough. Alright, what do we got for gas here? Very little, but, you know, a little bit of gas is still something. So this other teal player is indeed another AI, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it's like they start out given to another AI or something. I don't fully remember. This is pretty bad timing, unfortunately, but not too bad, I guess. Should still be able to handle it. Particularly since a lot of their units are over here, and they are so far behind me in upgrades. Okay. Dude, they have so many wraiths. I forgot how many wraiths they get added. So basically the AI script works that each area town adds more wraiths to the... pretty satisfying. But yeah, each Each base does its own thing, more or less. I will go ahead and create one spore colony over here. We don't really need to worry too much about having like perfect saturation or whatever in most cases here. IMO. Also, you'll notice it's taken them a very long time to get cloaking. They still don't have it. Right, I guess I'll get another spore colony just in case. It's pretty annoying. Alright, I think we'll move more drones over here now. It's just like a haphazard amount of units, basically. It's nothing really that important or difficult to deal with. It's more annoying than anything. And these tight-ass choke points that you'll see over here are pretty annoying as well. As you can see, these guys appear to have evacuated their bunker. So I've got a couple of hydras over in this area. We definitely need some lurkers now. Hope you guys liked my epic micro there. Thought it was pretty cute. Pretty epic move. I'm gonna take one of these depleted gas miners and get them over here. But yeah, these tight-ass choke points are pretty infuriating, generally speaking. So yeah, we get this Ultralist, but he's the only Ultra we have in the whole game. Normally, I don't recall ever actually coming up here when I have as many upgrades as I do. So the AI does notably train these units, by the way. Like
It's another starport destroyed. The more we raise, the less potent their attacks on your cluster should be. Good. Our swarms press the attack.
I was not expecting that one. Forgot about that little piece of trivia. Oh yeah, there's like a mine up here somewhere. Oh, I'm glad my units ignored it. There's a lot of Ahmeds over here. Anyway, it's pretty easy to just get up here, and once I have more units, I should be able to go back over there. Anyway, lurkers time. IMO. I feel like I'm not getting any money somehow. Not really much of a W over here. With regards to the like killing some of these units or whatever. Oh, there's a big attack force over here. That AI shouldn't scale super hard, I don't think. So we're mostly safe. I guess we'll grab Metabolic now. Tier 2 melee. That's all that we got left to do. Grab some Zerglings. Waiting for these units to come back here. They were pretty sure they were added to an attack group, and maybe those are replacements or something. Also, the vulture like hint that there's a spider mine nearby is pretty stupid. I think obviously it's a known issue that AI almost never actually use their They never actually use spider mines intelligently, right?
Our forces are under attack.
That doesn't mean that you should just like telegraph where they are and then replace them, though. In my opinion, that's a pretty stupid way of getting around the issues. You guys are still pretty under upgraded. I guess they drop shipped in or something. Hey. Still no cloak. Perfect. Zerglings bought me enough time for the Hydras to get in, which is nice. And we've got rid of a barracks. Nice little staging ground taken care of. There's a factory as well. Epic, by the way. Stupid, by the way.
One less starport to trifle with us. Another victory for our swarm.
Like you can see here, I'm the dialogue is not really all that stellar in my opinion.
That should put a stop to their assaults on my forces for now.
Nice internal monologue, Emma. It's just really crazy to me. Have fun. Like, so much of the dialogue is like almost contradictory in many ways. I don't know really how else to describe it. Oh yeah, get ready for more gameplay cringe, by the way. Okay, I guess it took a million hits.
Stroll you. I'm calling in another colony to spread the creep in this region. I recommend constructing a second Nidus canal to reinforce my troops faster. We understand.
Like, if you can just do that, then why don't you do it more often? You know what I mean? Gonna get some Zerglings over here so that we can get rid of some of those issues. Some of those leftovers. Presumably I won't get attacked by a million wraiths in doing so. Obviously I can go ahead and take that base as well, since it has a... Hey, Ahmed. What are you doing here? Hi. Ahmed. Bye. I guess I will get antenna just because I want that much more of a, you know. Oh, wait. I can't believe I'm already out of money over there. I think some of them are actually trying. Hey, Ahmed, what are you doing? They are trying to, like, defend or whatever. Alright. This is where I was thinking maybe I should go air, but... hard to say right now. There's so many pre-placed missile turrets.
Our forces are under attack.
And it's a lot of money to, like, mandate. I guess maybe lurkers are enough. thinking... By the way, the reason why you get map revealers over here is because this is technically high ground, so... Pretty cool. Not sure which I should go for next. I guess the next logical course... I don't think I can expand anymore. I think I might be stuck in terms of resources. Because I dilly-dallied a bit too long. And didn't push to take the other base.
Master,
There's some siege tanks and shit over here. Some Ahmeds. I don't know why Ahmed was even over. No, wasn't expecting that one. So yeah, they actually, you will actually have mischance attacking this guy. Dude, what? Didn't I order these guys to burrow? Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the best course of action would be here. I think if I just Zergling it, this will be like the last main threat, more or less. Dude. Truly incredible stuff. Jesus Christ. So many random units all over the place.
We move.
Pretty embarrassing that this is actually how this game works. Hey, at least they're building a lot of Hey, get back here. Yeah, at least they were building fire bombs. Alright, I guess we can just kill them now. Oh, hi. Didn't expect that. Yeah, I don't think there's that much left on the map, actually. Basically took no damage, honestly. Alright, go fuck those guys up, IMO. Oh, there's actually not that, it's not like it's that, missing, TBH. Oh, my bleh.
Together, the remnants of these Terrans won't stand a chance. Yes! Our swarms prepare for final battle!
So yeah, that is it for the organized AI defenses. Everything else is just going to be from blue, which, as you can see, was not particularly organized here. Got some units left, but here I think it's just upgrades and stuff, and he's not really upgrading that much. I don't remember if I changed the requirements for tier 2 to require science facility or armor. And obviously tier 2 by default requires science facility. I think I did change it though, because I don't think you get science facility in the Terran map in this campaign, so... See a nerd. So yeah, we should be able to like slowly clean this up. And send the rest over here. Didn't even realize I had some Zerglings left over. Pretty epic. Where is Strontium anyway? Off in the corner. Send these guys in. Must have been like a spider mine or something over there.
Our forces are under attack.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm playing better in this map than I was in the previous one. It's all pretty bad to me. Yeah, there's some shitty base you could take if you're really desperate. I always made like a deliberate attempt to make sure that the units were like the siege tanks and shit were rather far away from the optimal positions, and I'm not really sure why.
We prepare them now.
There's always like a note of finality to what these people are talking about, but realistically speaking, it's not really like all that impactful. I feel like I was really reaching for some of the shit that I was saying here, but I also don't remember if I ever like added a land bridge to the one that's on a quote-unquote island.
This starport will trouble you no longer. Good.
I can see the allure of having a more cooperative-oriented setting of any given... What would you call it? Like any given scenario, right? I just feel like... Okay. This is by a tree, so miss, XD. But yeah, I do just feel like there was a missed opportunity here in a big way. Because it could have been way more, like, fully realized. And it could have been more like, you know, you've got an AI ally on one side of the map. If you really wanted to lean into the gimmick of it being something about player choice and like who you want to, which side you want to favor, there could have been a way to do this where maybe you pick to be Strontium or Gaska, or you're always the same hero, but you pick which side you're on, or something like that.
We have crushed the staging area to dust. That should mean the end of their incessant attacks on my forces.
They weren't really incessant. Like maybe this did feel incessant to me when I was a shitty player back in the day. I mean, obviously I'm not particularly great now. Maybe I felt overwhelmed by this sort of difficulty. But you know, I can't imagine actually feeling the same way now. Maybe there was always a land area too. I don't like fully remember. Yeah, I feel like maybe I added this bridge after the fact. Even though it's still pretty much suicide to like run across you.
Have hidden one of their starports on this old Protoss platform. We will need overlords to breach their defenses.
But why?
Prepare our swords for
I just walk in. Hey, I did need overlords because of a single cloaked. Wait. Pretty cool. What the fuck? The pathfinding bug from building this with a different version of Firegraft is pretty bad. I'm just gonna pop this missile turret here. Ahmed? No. A reasonable.
Their island outpost is no more. Let's move on to the rest of them. We move!
Some really next level stuff over here. I actually didn't think there would be another organized attack of any capacity, but... Alright, might as well just go ahead and take care of this. What the fuck is going on over here?
Yes!
Get out!
We move!
Why? Why have they done this? Oh, they almost popped that Overlord. It was almost epic, even though it's just the AI being stupid. You'll notice that the AI is never, like, deliberately making good moves. Oh, yeah, like over here, he could be attacking a base that has some moderate amount of value. Why do that, though? I could just suicide into my Sunkens that you already scouted, you dummy. I do wish that AI, one of the obvious things, too, is, like, when the AI in FPS games doesn't even try to do some sort of, like, basic assault or like tactics or position in a way that gives them like a higher chance of success. You know what I mean? Like when that shit doesn't happen, it's pretty embarrassing to me. And I feel like there's ways to make it more, you know, like fair, I guess. And make it feel like when you win against a highly skilled bot, as strange as that might sound to some people, like there's some aspect of that that feels like it was worth something. Where it feels like, you know, you made a decision.
Forces are under attack.
I don't think Raised Jungle gives you a height advantage in this. I think I was before I decided to make that change, which is something I did for Hydra, for example. So yeah, I think there's only a couple more transports left at this point, or starports rather. Yeah, there's only 3 left. I don't know why I had a counter for them either. Like, wasn't really a requirement to spoil that particular thing. I guess when it's your objective to win, right? Your win condition is to do that. Then maybe it's like helpful for expectations of like player expectations. Honestly, this is like a breeze compared to the previous mission. I know the video length is about the same, maybe a little bit longer, but that's because I spent the first half hour of it ranting. Who can blame me? Not even an Ahmed in this bunker, dude.
Two Raider starports are up ahead. Stroll, see if you can flank.
Dude, this was like,
while I attack from the
what a bleh. What a stupid.
Our swarms fly.
There's like no reason for me to like, try to prescribe wisdom for that. You know what I mean? It's sort of like when in the first mission where Strom was like, we attack from many angles. It's like I had some fan fiction battle in my mind and I wanted to like prescribe that exact specification of the combat to everybody else. But yeah. Alright, that's it. I'm surprised there's nothing else going on here.
The Terrans have lost this ground for good. Excellent work, Magnate. Our swarms claim another victory! Cerebrate, the Raiders' starports are no more. With their supply lines severed, I anticipate the rest of them will soon abandon this fight.
Excellent work! We can now make ready to join Gorn in his search for the Protoss leadership and put an end to the Firstborn.
I will assist Strolium in rallying the last of its swarms and...
Infested! What has happened? No. Gorn! What has happened to Gorn? Magnate! Infested! Collect yourselves at once and return to the Yggdrasil! The fate of this invasion now hangs in the balance.
Blech. A rather uninspired blech. Oh, man, what can you even say about that? That's a blech. That's what that is. So, Gorn's death scream or whatever was, I could have done a better death scream or whatever, but the idea that it's like, powerful enough to cause some sort of confusion in the swarm seems a little weird and fanfiction-y. Like, maybe it sends the Overmind reeling in some sense. But then he should actually interfere, and like, he's been a wordless creature this entire time, right? Which is one of the things that I talked about in the trailer. How the trailer positions him as like a powerful, like a potent force within the campaign, like a main character or whatever. Whereas that obviously doesn't happen here. So then we look at this map, and it ends almost like a cliffhanger way. And then again, Tuzor saying the fate of the invasion now hangs in the balance is like more telling instead of showing. I don't know. It feels very generic. It feels very much like there was no option for the player to make the determination that maybe now this is a really bad deal for the Zerg, and read into like the concern that the characters have and how they think and speak and all that shit. Like there was nothing like that. It just feels very much like I'm forcing a no nuance allowed approach to storytelling, where I'm very much prescribing the actual goings on of the story, right? So yeah, I don't know. Pretty lame IMO. Let's return to the scene of the crime. And the crime, of course, being this fucking cutscene that cringed me out of existence at the beginning of the map. Not gonna really spare you. I'll spare you like the nonsense like breakdown of how I triggered that cutscene. It is really not that important. But I remember one of the things that I was thinking about when I was writing the dialogue for this particular map, and because I had spammed doodads everywhere, corpse doodads, I had to modify the dialogue to say like what the Marine was saying, where we already ran them out of this region. Why would they come back again, or something like that? Like, I mean, for one, that's such a stupid fucking line, because why would they try again to win? Ah, gee, I wonder. But even that, like, putting that to one side, what really got me about that is like, I was very clearly not thinking about the ramifications of placing all these corpse doodads everywhere, and beyond the gameplay sense, like what they actually do for storytelling, like visual storytelling, environmental storytelling. And I was thinking much less about scene construction and just being like super excited to start using all of these doodads all over the place, right? Definitely pretty lame in that respect. And as a result, I actually had to modify the dialogue because, like, for them to not mention that this shit was like this. Also, for this whole area to be super messy too. It felt really weird to me. It feels really weird to me looking at this now. It's like they don't give a fuck. They're not gonna, like, you know, repair some of this shit or clean it up and pave the way for additional construction. So it almost feels like it's really, like, it's very bizarre. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't want to get rid of some of this stuff. And and clear the way in that respect. And to that end, actually, I far prefer how Hydra does the corpse thing, where it's not nearly as like, there's no gameplay mechanic associated with it. I mean, with generic corpses, but there is a sense that because the corpses last a lot longer and the rubble lasts a lot longer, you get a sense that things happened over here. When you scout out a fight between two hostile AI or two hostile players, if you're playing like a free-for-all or something, you know, or even when you scout out like, 30 seconds later, you run around and you see like the remains of a battle that you yourself fought with somebody else earlier. Like, something about that feels very, very interesting, very unique, and very immersive. Especially if it's not yours initially and you're just stumbling upon them. It's like, oh, cool. Like, this is a living, breathing, dynamic world where things are happening. Like, something about that is really cool to me, personally. So, I actually far prefer that, even though you miss out on, like, more specific details. You can't, specify the things in the same way. But it's built into the expectation that we have looking at the game, too. So, there's something about that feels a lot better to me, personally. And it's a way to still accomplish the goal of environmental storytelling, but it's allowing the game and how the game has gone to affect the storytelling in a way where basically I would have to leave behind some element of permanent corpse doodad-like things. Similar to what I've done here, I would have to basically turn them into sprites and sprawl them or something, like spawn them on death for some of the units or something like that. Which maybe I could play around with the idea of corpses being used more as mechanics, and sort of like Warcraft 3, where they decay much less quickly, even slower than what Hydra offers. But the problem would definitely be figuring out how to interact with them and how to make them more than just visual decoration at that point, because otherwise there's not really much of a reason to step past the existing expectation. The other thing that you could also do too, and something that I guess some people probably have done in Warcraft 3, if I had to guess, although I haven't seen this personally, is you could pre-place these corpses in the map if they were going to be used in some gameplay scenario, and then you could just set their ages to different points. Like if the timer is, I think in Warcraft 3 it's 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes. So if the timer is 5 minutes, just for the sake of argument, we'll say that that's what the timer would be in like a magical new world where we had corpses actually mean something. Then you could actually have like, here's a corpse of a mutalisk, or here's a corpse of a sunken colony, or whatever. And like, at this point it has some sort of purpose, but we set its lifespan to be like halfway through its life. So if you don't scout it in 2.5 minutes, you don't see it at all. But then it's like rewarding you for some element of scouting. I'm also not really sure if buildings should leave behind corpses ultimately, because like they obviously would prevent rebuilding very quickly. But maybe they don't have to. Maybe that's like a false start too. Like maybe they can leave behind a corpse that could be deliberately targeted, but I mean, the main issue would be like maybe certain things would block pathfinding or something. Maybe certain weapon types could engage with it differently too. Like if it died to an explosive weapon, there would be no corpse left behind for a building, or a large unit. And if a small unit died to concussive, maybe it doesn't leave behind a corpse or something like that. I don't really know how you would go about handling it, but there could probably be some interaction. There's probably some way to engage with that in a way that doesn't feel gimmicky. That still feels like it's building on default concepts of an RTS, but is better than just pre-placing all these doodads. And thus permanently removing buildability, walkability, all that stuff. Anyway, let's talk about the actual map design. Once again, a map where you're very limited in terms of the resources that you have access to. Kind of funny that these two are part of the one town. I think maybe if I had moved this over. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That was pretty goofy. I don't even think that this base existed before, or maybe it didn't have a gas, or something happened over here where I definitely remember retooling that at some point. This didn't exist here. This was new. I think this always existed here though. It's just I really don't understand my hard-on for having super limited resources. I feel like it really prevents you from, especially in a map where there's a bunch of pre-play shit like this, really prevents you from having some element of, you know, strategy with how you approach stuff. You have to be very, very conservative with your unit. Like, I was floating a lot of money, but I was doing so intentionally in case I needed to remax or pivot to mutas, or so. If something didn't work out, I wanted to have a back-end solution. Normally, the way that you would do that in something like Hydra or something like just a more like a melee map in regular Brood War, you would just expand. You know, you would just like take another base and say, okay, I need resources to tech switch. But if you don't have another base, then you need to have a bank so that you can do that, right? So like, at least that was my logic while playing. Obviously, I didn't play very well in that particular respect. But that being said, it's just like, it doesn't really facilitate good play. Like, something that I remember distinctly when I was watching Kian play this campaign, he was streaming it to me over Discord a while back, like I think it was last year. Must have been. But he was streaming it, and he had not played it at all, so he was streaming it for the first time. And I remember thinking, like, he should get more workers. Like, why isn't he building more workers? And then I remembered, oh, well, I mean, I don't know if it was his logic or if it was just maybe he doesn't build that many workers or something, or at least at the time, because again, obviously he's played Hydra a lot since then, so I assume he's improved as a player. But when it comes to like that playthrough, I realized if I told him to build more workers, he would just mine out sooner, and then he'd have all these fucking units just sitting here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, why? You know, like the low resources actually fuck you in more ways than you might expect. And the AI don't give a fuck. Like, they may have had like 6 or 7 or 8 workers or something over in this area. I feel like, you know, I don't really think they had a lot going for them. And obviously there's no SCVs even over here. So like all those times I damaged dropships and stuff, I don't think there were SCVs for these people to repair. And they certainly couldn't rebuild. And yeah, I never saw any SCVs repair blue stuff. I saw it repair the teal stuff over here. But like, that's crazy to me that you don't get that happening. Like, you would think at least have the AI like construct their bases. Now, notably, this was all before any of the AI script extension plugins came into existence. So this is actually, even now, this current EXE I don't think has A's. In fact, I'll check right now to verify, because I'm very curious about that. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't even... Yeah, there is no A's. There's Smart Rally, which I haven't even talked about. I'm not going to use it. Auto Repair, which... whatever. You don't see it. The AI use it, because the AI always uses repair themselves. You'll see me maybe use that in the end of this campaign, but even then I don't think it's really that important, right? So like, there's nothing really going on here, and as a result, it's just crazy to me. Like, I can't imagine working without A's now in the modern day, or without like more elaborate GPTP stuff than what I have here. Like, basically, I can't imagine not using Hydra for a game state, to put it bluntly. And yeah, I feel like it's just so crazy that I'm pre-placed all this stuff when, in theory, like, knowing what I know now, or knowing even a fraction of what I know now, even without base layout, even without the AI script changes, which admittedly are pretty vital, I feel like it would have been trivial for me to like make it so that the AI builds their bases dynamically, and so they start out with like a couple SCVs over here. Even if you wanted to make it so that they were still gimmick AI with pre-placed money, maybe if they build up their bases over time and it feels more organic, that would be way better. I'll probably show the AI in a future video or something, because I don't feel like getting into that right now, but that's something I was thinking about. I also think that the layout is really bad too. Like, just looking at the layout, it's very clearly like deliberately designed to make it so that you have to play this map in 2 separate pieces. It doesn't coalesce at the end or even in a middle point. It doesn't allow you to like jump in and like, oh yeah, there's a low ramp over here that I can use to then like circle around from Stralium's side. So at some point I had to like hard commit to Goska's side after I took this base, basically. At that point it was over, right? So once I took the second teal base, and you know, obviously I moved over here as well. I didn't even look at this base over here. This is another case where the command center gets removed, and the refinery as well, I think, gets removed halfway through the I think the refinery gets killed technically, so that the geyser stays. But something like that happens. I forget why. I don't really I don't remember. It's something stupid. But yeah, it's just I think the experience of watching the like just experiencing this, like just playing this, was pretty miserable, TBH. IMO-DAD. I just feel like it could have been a lot more fully fledged if I had the ability to like just walk between these areas. Like maybe this is like maybe there's like 2 or 3 meeting points for ground armies to converge, and you've got to worry about the AI using that path as well as as well as like potentially using it to your own advantage. And by default, like the AI, maybe they start out with control over one and they take control of the other one really quickly. And then they, if you're, you know, too slow, they take control of the third one that's closest to you that you might start out with control over. But that would be way more interesting as a way to do it. And then like the distance between you and your ally, assuming there was an AI ally instead of you controlling both sides. You know, if you do need to go and save him, or he needs to go and save you, or there's some contribution that needs to be made from one to the other, then you need to maintain control over those areas, or you could get funneled down with tanks and bunkers and all this other stuff. Like, could be so much more than it is. And unfortunately, it just isn't, ultimately. So, those are my thoughts on this particular map. Hopefully you had a good time hearing me rant and rave and all that shit. And yeah, ultimately I'm not feeling the best about this particular mission, but it definitely was not nearly as offensive as the second map. So, you know how it is. Hopefully, I do remember the resources going up a little bit more as in the 4th and 5th missions, but I could also be wrong, so we'll have to wait and see. But that's it. That's the 3rd map of Inconsummate. Stay tuned for more in the future. I'll drop the 4th, 5th, and 6th. We're halfway done already. And then obviously, like I said, I'll do some accessory pieces at the end. So, reminder, if you have any suggestions for those accessory pieces, you let me know in the comments below. Bye-bye.